I started listening to some of our old
What's up,
episodes
YouTube?
when I was getting ready for this. But we're pretty good.
Oh yeah, y'all are good.
Yeah.
What is going on YouTube episode
Adina?
65?
Yeah, I didn't even know the episode number.
Check. Yeah.
I just put updated by Made4More on my notes.
Okay. I think it's 65. Check. 10.
Episode 65.
Check.
Dang, I went back. I wish I brought them in. I went back through. I found some stuff that you wrote down about like what we were gonna celebrate and like all of this stuff. And I was and just we wrote down things that we wanted to do. I'm like, we need to get on the ball because there were several things that we wrote down.
Yeah.
Now that was before COVID. I mean, like it was.
Was it?
Yeah, because it was when we wrote it down. It was before we started the podcast. And like when I look back, some of those things we didn't do were because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, you know, and I was like,
COVID.
huh, interesting.
Episode 65, YouTube. Adina and Mario are right here. I don't know. Is my wife there?
Now, when I see Ashley, I don't see. There's Jamie, the one and only beautiful Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
That's not.
Not
me.
That's Jamie.
What?
What? I put
We
Mila on
were
camera.
waving at everybody on YouTube, but I said.
I put Mila on camera while Lisa
Yeah,
said,
I
Jamie.
said
Jamie.
Jamie.
Oh.
Jamie Morales, and she held at me. That's not Jamie.
Check.
Check.
All right.
Check yourself. Let's have some.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am. So I want you to do your normal opening, and
Yeah,
then you're going to
and
close,
then
and then
I'll-
I'll.
I'll figure that out.
You got this.
You okay, Tiana?
Yeah.
I was watching the slide and I was like, well,
Yeah.
check. All right.
I'm really impressed with us. Okay.
Biggest month this
Let's
month.
go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Made4More Consulting Podcast, where we talk about personal development and leadership development, and we are all about making sure that we motivate, inspire, and encourage leaders to be better so that they can make the people around them better. This is episode 65. We will get into where we're headed, but real quick, if you are listening for the very first time, I think this is a great time for you to be listening because we're giving an update on Made4More. So we usually tell people to go back and listen to episode 1 and 27, but today we are actually giving a little update on where we're at for Made4More, and I honestly don't know where we're heading. So
Yeah.
Adina is going to lead that. But again, thank you for listening wherever you're listening. Give us a review and subscribe to our podcast. That would help us out a ton.
Apparently,
So, welcome back.
that's important. That if you subscribe, it actually changes things.
It helps. I think, yeah, so Atiana, my wife, Ashley, Allie, Adina, who else? Is Alexander? Sam's the only one out here, so we have a full crowd here. YouTube is back, episode 65, and then, yeah, you guys missed a couple of great episodes last time. Or I haven't seen you, I don't know when it's the last time you've been here to record a
It's been a
podcast.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to listen to the last couple episodes, though.
I've gotten a couple of people, again, just so people know, this is the biggest month we've had on the podcast.
Every
Over
month.
650
Every month, you
downloads.
say that every single month.
But
So
we
has-
had a bunch of people that, like in California, some Marines, some people in Colorado that are in the Army. Sal just has a pretty cool influence over some people in there listening in the special operations
Well, and
community.
I love it that Sal means so much to you. You know, well, you know, he's like your best friend. So,
Yeah.
and that you were able to like introduce him to the Made4More community.
Yeah,
So I
and-
think that's important.
So if you haven't listened to the last two episodes, go check them out. But I do want to say this, that we were just doing the recording to catch up as people. Like, he's a great guy. So when he didn't talk so much about the Liver Fund, it wasn't meant to be that. But the Liver Fund also is taking advantage of the fact that he is an influence and he can talk about how to help them, help the human trafficking. And so maybe we'll come back on and just do a specific episode about how you can help prevent human trafficking through the Liver Fund. So, nonprofit organization, go check it out.
I think that's great.
So episode 65, you're gonna be going. I think at the end we'll discuss where we're headed next week. But are you guys ready? Let's do
Yeah,
this.
let's do this. So one of the things that I have been thinking about is, like you just said, is that every single week when we start, we always tell people to go back and listen to episode 1 and 27.
Mhm.
So I thought we would kind of go back through and kind of summarize and kind of revisit that, and so that way if somebody's new, we can direct them
Yeah.
back to this episode, and hopefully they'll get to see a little bit about how and why Made for More was created. So let's start with that. Where did Made for More start?
Just from a place of, I think, discontentment. I mean, for me, it's a discontentment with, and I think you could say I was could you say a successful individual, but I was discontent with where I was because I was not utilizing my fullest potential to lead the people around me. And so it's one of those things that I think I've said this to you before, and I've said this to Adina and my wife and everybody that has listened to this at some point in your life, when you go to bed and you cannot shake the feeling of there's more to this. When you wake up and you continually go, hey, I'm made for more than this, or the fact that you go, hey, this discontentment is driving me nuts. And some people put that to sleep inside their heart and it never goes away and it continues to eat at you the rest of your life. And for me, I am not okay with that. I was okay with that for a while, but I can't. The discontentment leads to me wasting my talent, wasting my influence, wasting a lot of my life if I don't do something about it. And that's where it came from, is discontentment on the fact that I know I was made for more. And I think as we discuss these every week, it becomes more and more clear, and I guess it's easier to put words around it.
Well, so one of the things you said in there was about your potential, that when you were discontent, you were realizing that you weren't reaching your potential.
Yeah.
And so I know that you as a person are really gifted at seeing other people's potential. And so talk a little bit about the word potential and how that kind of goes back with believing that people are made for more.
Yeah, and I think, ever since I was in high school, there was a couple of coaches that said that they saw potential in me and I didn't see it in myself. And then a couple of good friends that we mentioned on here. You know, we mentioned Jay Mayo and Stephanie Cranky, and they were just good friends of mine at different times that said, hey, there's potential in what you see in people. Why don't you start something like that? And for me, I think that whether it's a shoe industry, whether it's HR department, whether it's a church, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a plumbing or electrical company, every single person, and this is what I think I'm zeroing in on in my influence with other people, is every single person has greatness in them, like every single person in this house right now. But who's going to be the person that, like they say, waters the seed and watches it grow or takes care of it? Because if they don't, then that person's never going to reach that potential. But the leader that is responsible for those people, if you don't, then you've failed your people. And I think for me, seeing that in people is to go, man, I don't want anyone to ever get to the end of life and go, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. And I just want to see people to their fullest potential realize that, hey, I thought I was just part of the team. No, maybe you're meant to go start your own business. Or hey, I thought I was just a busser. No, maybe you're meant to be the GM of a store. And so I think potential just comes in the fact that I had someone tell me, hey, you have potential to do more. And I didn't know what that was. And it's scary because it means you have to step out. And then you got to fight. I wrote this word down as complacency. And so I think when I see potential in people, it's to help them see that complacency is easy, but it kills. And the courage to grow is not easy, and it's fearful, but the only way you're going to realize that you're made for more is to fight against complacency.
So when you were, at that place in your life where you were feeling that discontentment, and then, you had those different people kind of speak into your life, saying like, I see this potential in you, putting all of that together, why does Made for More exist?
I thought it was funny because I honestly thought that it was just going to be a customer service based organization where you go in and you help people with customer service. And I thought that for the longest time. So it exists because I want to help people see through motivate, inspire, and encourage, those three words that we live by, that it exists because every single one of us is made for more, like we say, but I just believe that every single person has, again, it sounds dumb, but every single person has greatness in them, but it's not easy to get to that point. And it's gonna be a struggle sometimes, but it exists because every single one of us has something to offer. And I believe that it may not be easy, but when you reach that point where you say, I'm firing in the compartments that I'm supposed to be in on, that it's not gonna be easy, but you feel fulfilled and you feel more than content. You know that there's time to move forward and grow. But yeah, it just exists because every single one of us has more to offer in life. And I keep going back to what I've said before, and if they haven't listened, I'm glad they're listening, but I don't want any of us in this room to be that person on the rocking chair at the end of your life going, man, I wish I would have done this. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. And I think the older I get, which, I mean, I'm 40, but I think the relationships around me matter more. And I want that for my daughters. I want that for us. I want that for my family, my wife, our team. But it means fighting and going against everything that the culture teaches, which is, hey, just take the path of least resistance. It's not good.
Well, and you said you don't want the people in this room to, sit back in the rocking chairs at the end of their life and be like, hey, look, I wasted all of this potential. I don't think you want that for anyone.
Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, you did. But I think I think that's the fire in you, is it's not just the people in your immediate life. It's, you can see a bigger picture, and you can see how if you could release that potential in people that uncover that greatness in themselves, how it changes their lives, it changes their families, it changes their workplace, and it changes the world.
Yeah. They said, I just recently heard someone say, hey, lead a child and you change a life. Influence a child and you change a life. Influence a parent and you change a family. But influence a leader and you change every single person that they come into contact with. And so I believe every single one of us is a leader, but we got to influence those people, and for each one of us to work together. I definitely believe that every single one of us can be more. And I think the one thing that I want people to understand right now too is we're like 4 years in the making, and it took a while to get here. And it's taking a while to get where we're at with different clients. But that's where consistency comes in rather than complacency, and things don't happen very quick.
So what would you say to somebody who's at that place that they feel like they are to have that discontentment in their life, and they are just right now they're just sitting in the rocking chair, rocking on the porch, taking the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
But they kind of feel that something's different, like I'm not happy. There's something else going on. What would you say to them?
I think what's crazy is every single one of us in this room, in the house, is probably outside of my girls, but I think it happens to kids too, but every time that you and I stop growing, then we get upset with ourselves. But then that transfers into my relationship with my friends, with the community, with my spouse, because I'm discontent. So you may see someone who is growing and you get pissed off internally, and then you get short with people. So if I hear or someone's listening right now that says, hey, I'm discontent, you would know right now that you're frustrated with yourself. But here's the thing is, you can start tomorrow, you can start today, but everything in you is going to say, I want to get to the 365-day mark right tomorrow. It's not going to happen that way. And the one thing that I'll never forget, I think it was 2019, that I said, okay, January 1st through every single day, I'm just going to write down one thing that I've learned every day, which again, it was either a podcast, a book. It was one thing that I said, hey, that's what I need to learn. And I have that document, but every single day I just wrote down what I learned anew. And for me, that equals personal growth. So if you're not personally growing, and if someone's saying, well, I don't want to grow personally, I don't like to read, I don't like to do this, well, at some point you got to go, you're the holdup, the extreme ownership. You're the holdup of why you're not growing. Well, I'm not a good reader. Well, then listen to a book. Well, I don't listen very well.
Yeah, stop making excuses.
Yeah,
is what
go
you're
watch
saying.
a freaking YouTube video. But you're the reason that you're where you're at. And I think that's the hard part for me, and especially when I said I was discontent, was sitting in the recliner down. What's funny is it was a recliner, but sitting downstairs right before Christmas and learning that I'm the reason that I was discontent. I'm the reason where I was at. And I think we have to just own that. If you can get past that first step and go, okay, what am I going to do to personally grow? Go find 3 podcasts and listen to it. Go find a book. Go back and listen to the books that we freaking have covered. But I think the key to discontentment, the thing that fights it, is going to be personal growth. Because then you start to go, I'm going somewhere.
So you have a passion for personal growth.
Yes.
And leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that came from, and how have you seen that catapult and change your life?
I think it's just like building something. For me, I think like, it's like we've said before, I know my wife's not the same way that I am, but I like checking things off. Today's March 30th. I have not missed a day since December 27th of working out either twice a day or once a day.
Yeah.
So since December 27th, I haven't missed a day. And I'm looking at my rings closed, and it might be 11 o'clock at night, but I'm gonna go run 2 miles because I need my rings to close. So those little things, but what I'm trying to get to is the fact that I said, okay, a mile every other week is not gonna help. A mile a day, or even half a mile a day, adding up over 3 weeks is gonna get me better than what it was now. So I think for me, is in my own life, I've seen where whether it was running a store for Finish Line or running or helping people with the clients we're helping, is going, it's consistency. So when I meet with them every week, it's building something, and then when that light goes off in the person you're helping, you go, oh, it's working. So for me, it's building something in my own life to go, it's discipline equals freedom, and I see the results, but it's not the results really quick, like I said earlier. It's going, if I do this now, it's gonna pay off in 2 weeks, but am I willing to put in the work for 2 weeks? And when I see that work, I go, okay, it's working. But I've also learned this in this whole thing of personal growth, is not too many people want to do it. They want the result, but they don't want to do it.
Well, and like listening to you talk, one of the things I think about is, I imagine that, on December 27th, when you made that commitment, there have been a lot of days that you didn't want to go work out.
Today.
But you did it anyway.
Yeah.
Because you made that commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important thing for people, whether it is exercise, eating healthy, reading, whatever it is for you that you are doing to grow in that area. There are many days that people don't want to do something, but you have to do it anyway.
And you don't want to show up.
And you have to show up. You have to do it anyway, because you have to believe in the bigger picture.
And so right there, if when you say bigger picture, here's what's funny, is there's days that I make my own schedule and I say, I don't have to go to work. And it's funny because it's starting to creep in where I go, no, consistency means I need to show up. But here's what the bigger picture is for me. It's not for me. The bigger picture is for the leaders that I'm leading, because they need me to show up just to be there to help support whatever they're doing, so that when we have these discussions, they leave my meetings with them going, I feel better, I learned something, but then they go and they feed that back into their staff. So consistency is not just for me, it's for the people around me. And I when I said that, and I know personal growth, when I said a lot of people don't want to put in the work, what I've learned is it's different for you, it's different for me, Tiana, my wife, Ashley, everybody here. Their consistency is going to be different than mine, and their passion is going to be different than mine. But if we can hone in on so Made4More can hone in on someone's consistency efforts and say, hey, you're every other week, or hey, it's this or that, whatever it is, I think that's what I know that's what we've helped clients do. But I want people to understand that, again, personal growth takes a lot of discipline, and I'm very disciplined in certain areas of my life, and some I'm not.
Well, I think that anytime you're going to grow or do something personally, it takes time, and you have to be willing to spend that time, whether it is like you for exercising, or whether it is reading or listening to a podcast, or you have to be willing to take that time away from probably what you think you want to do, whether that's just because what happens is we make all these excuses, but time and time again, you say it all the time, discipline equals freedom. And if you'll have the discipline now to take that time, you'll have the freedom later on.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about being consistent, and what was the question before this? You said
where did that come from?
So the other thing too is, like, when I heard Jocko mention discipline equals freedom, I didn't know what it meant, but then when I started going, and you might think it's dumb, and people may think it's dumb, but you can ask my wife, she was firsthand. My daughters hated me saying it, but I thought, if I take the trash out in the morning, it's not gonna pile up at the end of the day. That's discipline equals freedom. If I don't spend the $200 that I get now, and I save it till I get the next $200, that's discipline equals freedom. If I clean my car every time I get out of the car for the end of the day, then my car's gonna be clean later. That's discipline equals freedom. It was the smallest. It's dumb because my mind would start playing games. Well, if you do the dishes now, you're not gonna have to do them when they pile up. That's discipline equals freedom. In the smallest sense, if you can become disciplined in the smallest things, when it comes to doing those big things, it'll pay off.
When I remember the first time that we talked about that, I mean, I can tell you like where we were sitting, what we were talking about, and that's what you were saying. You were planning something, and you're kind of creating like a system and a structure that seemed like a very basic thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you were trying to explain to the people around us, is that if you will do this and you will follow this, then it will take away all the stuff in the middle, and on the other side of it, it will be so much easier.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, that's what that means,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
so I think everybody kind of has to have their like aha moment with that, you know, with discipline equals freedom. But that's definitely something that you talk about a lot and that you believe in.
Yeah, and I think the discipline equals freedom also exposes the excuses that you make. And I know Etiana was one of the first people that I worked with, her and a couple of like part-time people that were younger than anyone on our staff. And I was with them and they got the brunt of it, because every time we meet, I'd go, discipline equals freedom. Like, what are you gonna be disciplined in doing?
Right,
But
do your work now.
It's pay now, play later.
Yes.
Or play
Yes.
now and then pay later. It's the same thing, but to me, that whole discipline, when someone says they're disciplined in something, you don't have to say it. You can probably guess pretty quick, hey, they're pretty disciplined in that. And again, like I said, I'm not disciplined in every area. I just know that's what I'm trying to consistently grow in, and that's where that personal growth question comes from, is that I enjoy seeing the results of consistency played out, whether that's a business or whether that's in just something personal.
Well, and I think that's one thing with Made4More that you really like hone in with your clients, is like consistently meeting, and you ask them the same consistent questions, you know, in the beginning.
Totally.
But I think what that does is that also that puts them in that mindset.
Yeah.
You know, that this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm gonna show up.
Yeah, and it's funny because you and I, and again, Etiana worked in the same offices, and you get tired of certain meetings, but if you don't meet, again, I can understand if a meeting has nowhere, it's not going somewhere. But if you have a meeting that consistently goes somewhere for a year, what would happen if you took that whole year away? You're screwed, and people are going their own direction. And I think Slab, for example, when I first met with the owners, they were never meeting. And I was like, that's horrendous to me. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, watch. So for the first 30 days, for the first 2 months, we met once a week. So that's 8 times in 2 months. And they go, oh, we can't miss. And for 2 years, we've been consistently meeting every Tuesday. It's like this, if you can't be there, we're still gonna meet. You have to have consistency in personal growth and any equal growth, I think. And I think for us, my family's here, you and Etiana, every Wednesday is not easy sometimes. And then sometimes we record on Saturday. Sometimes some of you don't make it, or sometimes you don't, or Etiana doesn't. But we said we're gonna be consistent. And again, the payoff is, this is the biggest month of our podcast.
Every month.
Yeah.
It's
been
that
amazing.
It's that consistency that keeps equals the growth.
And if you we play off of this again, this is what Made4More believes, is you and I and Etiana and Jamie and people that say, hey, I want to start a podcast. You can tell me that all day, and I can give you, I've literally given some people that I know all the stuff that I said, but taking the leap was one thing, but being consistent every week it's tough.
That's where it comes in.
Yeah.
That is where it comes in, is being consistent. So, Made4More, we say it all the time, it's motivate, inspire, and encourage. And so I want you to talk a little bit about those words.
Yeah.
So like the word motivate. Okay, first of all, let's back a little bit. Where did those words come from?
It's interesting because I think when I met with just meeting with random people, like Stephanie and Jay, and then one of the people that I attended to, I never said anything is like Brooke Wells. She was somebody that helped start this from the very, very, very beginning. And I had all these ideas, and she would organize all this stuff, but these words kept coming into going, I want to motivate people, I want to inspire people, and I want to encourage people. But I never wanted it to play out as in Made4More, motivate, inspire, and encourage. But then as we kept saying those things, with whether it was Brooke, whether it was you, whether it was people that I'm trying to sell this vision on or this idea, they just kept coming back consistently, motivate, inspire, and encourage. And I think at the heart of who I am, I think there's a coach's heart in there. And I think that's where I was like, man, I want to be someone who motivates people. I want to be someone who encourages people. I want to be someone who inspires people. And that's just where it came from. And the way it plays out, it just played out that way. But I do want to tell people that, well, that's it. It just came from repetitive talks of who I am. I think that's the other thing, is I wasn't trying to be someone else. When you get down to who I am, I think that's then the people that I surround myself with, we motivate, we inspire, we encourage each other.
So let's take the word motivate, because one of the things that you were real clear about in the very beginning is this is I'm not going to be your cheerleader. I'm not going to pull you along. That your motivation is your why.
And so people have a wrong definition of motivate. Because when you hear motivate, you think that I'm going to stand right there beside you and say, hey, run this next mile.
Let's go, come on.
No, that's not it. It's not a cheerleader. Motivate is to go, hey, I'm going to help you find your why. And your why is very important, because at the end of the day, when you don't want to go take that exercise, go do that workout, when you don't want to show up to work, when you want to call in, well, what's your why? If my why is bigger than anything else, then I'm going to show up. I want to stay consistent. So your why is tied to your consistency. Is why am I wanting to be consistent? Because this is the result you want to get. That's the why. And so much so, like for businesses, when you think about businesses and Made4More working for businesses, with businesses, that why on a business sense is it's who do you want to be. So your why and who kind of go into that. People don't buy what you sell, they buy why you sell it and then who you are. So that for me, motivate is going, what is the reason you're here? Why are you here? And at the end of the life, again, when you're in the rocking chair, you can go, this is who I was, and that was it. So finding out who you want to be and why you want to do it, and Made4More comes in and goes, we're going to zero in on that, and that's going to be your target from here on out. That's the center of your motivation.
Well, I think that as an individual or as a business, you have to know why you exist. You have to know what that is.
Yep.
And I think that's one of those things that people can get real rocky in and not really know. And I think that's when you feel that discontentment. That's when you're like, what is going on? Or I'm like, my business is moving along, but we're not being as successful as we could be.
Yeah.
And this is why we don't know our why, and we're not operating like in that zone of why we exist.
So do you think people's why can change over time?
Well,
I think we've talked about
we have. I do to an extent. I think at different seasons in your life, your why may be a little bit different. But I think ultimately you have to find out your bigger picture. Like if it's motivate, inspire, encourage, if it's to add value, if it whatever it is, I think you have a bigger why that then you kind of zero in on different situations.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
But I do. I think whether it's a business, your why might change a little bit.
Yeah.
And or it might redefine it a little bit as we go.
Cool.
So anything else you want to say about motivate and finding your why?
I just think that every single person knows that there's something bigger out there, and that's, you got to figure out, like we said, zero in on your why. And if you're asking yourself, where do I start today? Write down the word why on the top of the sheet of paper and just go, or who.
Right, I was going to say, a minute ago you said something about who do you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you have to figure out is who do you want to be?
Yep.
And
that determines your why. Like, this is why I exist. It's pretty much the same thing. So, but in an organization or a team or a big company, it's easier for us to ask them, who do you want, as a company, who do you want to be known for? Not what are you doing, not selling shoes.
Not your financial goals.
Exactly. Who do you want to be? Well, we want to be somebody who, is integrity.
Right.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, well, or is a value to the community. We want to be somebody,
who gives back. And
yes, those kind of things, for sure. So I think that's really important that you talked about that, is that it's who you want to be. And Made4More was built on the idea of who you wanted to be and what you could bring to people. And I think that's important for anybody in a business. If you like, integrity is a great one. If that's something that you value, and we've talked a lot about this on different episodes, finding your values, but if that's something that you value, then that can be part of your why. Kind of be who you are.
That's good.
Okay, so what about the word inspire?
Inspire to me is other people's stories. I mean, last week we had on my best friend Sal, we've had on Mandy Sheehan, we've had on Jay Mayo, we've had Mark and Raph, we've had John Evans, we've had, I'm trying to look at all the signatures.
But it doesn't, but I think a lot of those people.
Grace and John Parks.
A lot of those people have a story that of overcoming something, but several of those people, they just have a story that's just like the people listening.
Yep.
So I think that your story doesn't have to be something big and grand in some people's eyes. I think a lot of people think they don't have a story. I don't have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And
and what's funny is your story comes from the struggle, because that's when you find out who you are. So to me, inspire is going, who has walked through something that is similar to what I've walked through, or something I've never walked through, but someone listening on the other side of this is going to go, when Tyler and John talk, and John, Tyler, and Jay talked about loss, and I'm going, there's people that have dealt with suicide or someone being killed. And then I think about maybe Sheehan starting something for foster care. There are people out there that do foster care, there's tons of people. And then Sal and special operations community and PTSD, and again, counseling, it all ties together. But I think the underlining theme of every single person we've had on is the fact that it wasn't easy, whatever they're starting, it wasn't easy, whatever they're doing, but in the struggle or in the chaos of life, they were finding out who they are. And that's what I want people to draw from, is I'm more inspired from someone who's come from the bottom to the top, or goes, I found out who I was in the struggle, rather than someone saying, hey, I was born into this and I inherited all this. The struggle is where I think people are inspired.
For sure. And I think that inspiration, we've talked a lot about this, comes from stories. I think it also comes from, it can come from books, it can come from a lot of different things. But I think Made4More really focuses on the stories of other people.
Yeah. I mean, again, Mark and Raph, they're one's Mexican, one's black, but or half. And in Austin, people really love diversity and ethically owned businesses, and they grew up. I mean, again, Mark grew up as an only child, but with a mom raising him, and so many people connect with that. And the fact that he's successful is an inspiration to go, it's not easy. He's still working his butt off. He's still in the stores. He's the owner of an organization, and he's still in stores because he's going to continue to grow, but he's inspiring people with his story.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that, where Slab is right now is not where it started.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I love the part where he talks about, towing the food truck.
Yep.
I mean, that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Hey, Slab has 4 locations and it must be good. Well, go back again. Discipline was freedom. They were disciplined to get wherever they needed to get to, so they could have the freedom of, at some point, opening a store. And I think the one thing about Inspired Dude that I wanted to share was, this is where Tiana did a really good job and you did a good job. But I think when we say things on social media, that she does a really good job using the word community. This is where you and I talk on the podcast about community. Mm-hmm. That it's not just us in this room or in this house. It's the community of Made4More. When you wear a shirt, when you listen to the podcast, when you support us, when you like something, to us it's going, hey, it's an inspiration because this is a community that's working together to tell people they were Made4More.
Right, and I think that is inspiring in itself.
There you go.
Okay, next word, encourage.
Encourage. I think the other thing about myself, and I think hopefully you'd agree, is, I think it's something that's learned, is tactically doing something that you can get results from. So like when someone has this big plan, or they have this idea to get better, I go, okay, that's great, but what are you practically gonna do every single day to be consistent to do this? Well, I wanna save up $20,000 this year. Okay, that's great, but what are we practically gonna do today? Well, I'm gonna put $20 aside every single day. Great, that's one step. So let's put that down. So the encouragement part is going, what are you doing tactically and strategically to move forward in life?
One of the things that I've heard you say before is like, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah,
like this is your practical steps to get where you want to be.
And the reason it's encouragement is because if I see you do that, it's an encouragement for me to go, maybe I should try that, or whatever someone else is trying, hey, maybe I should try that because it's working for them. And I think the podcast itself has shown this to us, is that other people are trying some of the things that we've talked about, and it's an encouragement to us, and we're an encouragement to them. So it's this full circle of practical steps.
And I think that this is where that consistency comes in. Mm-hmm. And we've talked a lot about it over the last year and a half of just being consistent and making your goals, and all of that is that's what encouragement is. That's where it comes in. Mm-hmm. Is that doing what it takes to get where you want to be. And
I think I've learned more than anything lately is just our brand and our team, like just checking in on Tiana, my wife, and you, and going, okay, if we're going to be the best place people want to work for, we got to act that way. And I have to act that way as an owner and as someone who cares about people, that regardless if it's called Made4More, regardless if even the company goes down, I'm still going to be the person who motivates, inspires, and encourages. But I think when we see encouragement, I think you and I talked to Tiana that day where she got she talked about she left a job and quickly got promoted because she's practicing the practical steps that we believe in, and it pays off.
She's like, look, it works.
Yeah, and so that was an encouragement to us to go, oh man, it does work, and we're not just full of crap. But it also works with our clients, it works with the volunteers, and I think that's something that I know going forward, at some point we'll talk about this, but in the future, doing something for people that work with volunteers, because again, you and I work with volunteers, Adina does, Jamie works at a high level with volunteers, and I'm going, you can't pay them, they show up. Well, how do they show up? Because you're an encouragement to them. If you can't be an encouragement to them,
because you motivate, inspire, and encourage them.
there you go. So.
Okay, so let's get a little bit personal. Let's think about, you have the words motivate, inspire, encourage. Who in your life would you say kind of represents like the motivate word?
The motivate word. So kind of shows me, does it need to be, I mean,
it can be anybody you want. There's no rules.
The first few people that come to mind is like Simon Sinek, because he talks about your why.
Yes.
And the book, every book that he writes goes back to right back to the fact that you got to figure out who you are. If you and then so Simon Sinek, and I'm not a big John Maxwell fan, but he says some things that in order to lead other people, you got to lead yourself.
Right.
So
for
I
sure.
have to figure out what my why is before I can help anyone else.
For sure.
So I think what's interesting is I never have seen Simon Sinek as a mentor or something, but what he hits on practically helped me go, this is my why, this is who I am.
I think that's a really good one. When I was in the airport last week, there was a guy reading Start With Why, and I was like, hey, that's a really good book. He's like, I know, we had this whole conversation about it. I was like,
That's
I'm
cool.
such a dork. But
yeah, no, that's it.
It was because there is something. Simon Sinek was the first one that I found that kind of uncovered that like deeper unsettling, and realized in an organization that your why is what's going to carry you through. And personally,
it's to start with why, and then remember, leaders eat last, because it goes back to the fact that as a leader, you got to figure out who you are before you can tell anyone what to do. And I think Simon Sinek and Maxwell both land on that level of, if you want to be positional and lead positionally, then people are just going to do what you say because of what your position is. If you want to know your people and lead with them and walk with them, then you got to figure out who you are. So
we should do those levels of leadership one time.
Maybe.
Yeah, but they're good. That's good. Yeah. Okay. What about inspire? Whose story inspires you?
Man, I think, man, I don't know. I think a lot of, I don't even know. I think a lot of like.
This is what happens when you don't know the questions ahead of
I
time.
know, but I'm trying to think story, but or like what they've gone, not so much what they've gone through, but who they've been.
How they've come out of it.
Yeah, that is like, again, nothing big, but like Louis Giglio, he didn't have anything dramatic happen in his life. I mean, I know he lost his dad. His dad had a stroke, and he was an artist and all this. But hearing how he led people through life, regardless of his circumstances, was huge. And I've followed him since I was in college. And as a mentor, I was like, man, that's who I want to be like when I speak. I don't ever want to use notes. Again, I know that goes I know it goes back to like in a minute encouragement practically, but like when I hear him speak, I'm going, man, his story is who I want to be like, because he reaches people on a personal level because of what he's gone through. But I don't want to use notes because I want to talk to people. It's something so small like that. And then I think that I don't know. I don't know anyone's specific story that maybe lends to going, hey, this is why you did it. I think it's more so the fact that being able to see that if you put in the work, you can get where you want. And I think that's internal for me, but also everybody else that we've been around, from you guys, but also to like Tyler and losing his dad and seeing him come out of that. I think the people in the community, again, inspired for me was the communities to go, that's what keeps me going, is the stories that we hear. And the little things like going, you know what, I heard your podcast and this is what I thought. I'm like, what? You listen to our podcast? Yeah. And the most random people come up to you and you go, hey, it's a good podcast. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I heard your podcast. I'm like, you listen to our podcast.
I still think that's so weird when somebody says that. I was like, oh yeah, good podcast.
People that like we're eating breakfast and some guy comes up and says, hey, that was a really good podcast. I'm like, thanks, I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. But I think when I think of Inspire, I think of the community that we're building, because it consistently comes back that if you give, people are going to give.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things I'm going to bring up right here that we haven't talked about a lot, but is John and Grace.
Yeah,
like the
that's
fact,
a big one.
I think that like that to me was a very inspiring story, that they heard the podcast
Yeah,
and they were like, I've never done anything like this,
yeah,
but I'm going to reach out to these people
Yep.
and share like my life with them,
yeah. That's
because
right.
I believe there's something bigger.
That's
And
good.
I think that's a good, like, in our,
Yeah,
you know,
that's a
in our
good one.
community.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
kind of
then
like, oh, hey, yeah.
one in the background that's playing, I'm sure he's listening, but Alan from Louisiana, I think he's a police officer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he just reached out to us, to our team, and just said, hey, he was the one that said, when we said, hey, if you write us, we'll
Yes,
give you a
listen,
book.
yeah, I
So,
love
we're
that.
sending
People
that.
are listening.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is we're regular people.
Mhm.
And I think when people think that, oh, you have a podcast and you want to start your own business, the discipline comes in when you go, I don't care about all that stuff,
Yeah.
because I want to be consistently who I've been called to be
Yeah.
for the community that we've been called. And it's each one of our stories. Man, we've worked together, we've known each other, but it's each one of our stories, I think, that that kind of does it. And I think Jay, of course, has walked with us through so much. But knowing that I remember where I was when his brother took his life, and I remember not believing it, and then walking with him through that. And then when we were at a place where I felt not abandoned, but like I was in Midland, didn't know anybody, and he's the one that said, hey, how long do you plan on staying around? And I was like, I don't know this guy. And Jay was like, hey, let's start hanging out. We started hanging out, and I mean, he's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And so.
Okay, so what about encourage? Who encourages you? I mean, you
Man.
talked a little bit about Louie. Do you have anybody
right
else?
off the bat, yeah, Jocko.
Yeah.
Jocko's
I
probably
was waiting for
yes,
Jocko to
yeah.
come up in this conversation.
I'll never forget meeting him at that whatever it's called, the
Buster?
Paramount, the Paramount downtown. And I said, man, and he'll say it to everybody, but when I said, hey, you know, this is what you've taught has changed my life, he's like, no, you changed your life, because he goes back to extreme ownership. But for
You
sure,
did the work.
exactly. Somebody gives you the tools, the map, the keys, whatever it is, you still have to do the work. And so I think Jocko's encouragement of, man, because when I heard extreme ownership, I was like, this is bullcrap. I'm not the one to blame. I am not the one to blame. But once you get past your ego, like he says, if you don't keep your ego in check, it's going to keep you in check. Or if you don't overcome your ego is going to be, it's going to take control of you. So yeah, take control of your ego before it takes care of you. Takes control of you. Take the high ground, or the high ground is going to take you. All those little things that I had to go, I'm not sharing this with anybody. This is me personally. I have to work on this consistently. And then waking up at 4:30, just because he would do that, I'd go, okay, I got to do that. And I did that for 2.5 years, I think.
So,
And then just from going physically, I want to try to just do something every day. So Jocko is a big part of that. I would say that's probably it. Jocko's probably the biggest influence as far as when it comes to encouragement.
So I just have a couple more questions. So what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned over the last year and we've been almost a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's almost
last,
a year and a half.
yeah. Okay, so
Since
the
we
last
took off.
year, you know, like what do you think? What's a lesson you've learned?
I think that consistency trumps everything else that you think will get you to the end faster. Like when you think, oh, I'm gonna go buy this or purchase this, I'm gonna take the shortcut. Man, my stomach's growling. But consistency is key. Like I know that's a freaking what do you call it? It's when people say that all the time, it becomes callous, but it's
Cliche.
it's a cliche statement.
Yeah.
But consistency is key because of the fact of what we've done, but then working with clients going, I don't want to show up today. I'm too tired. I meet with you guys before I actually go to work. I have to fit you into the schedule. I got to fit myself into your schedule. And when I start doing that consistently, I'm beginning to go, it's what I said earlier. Every single one of us has greatness, but who's going to take the time to water the seed, to cultivate it, to show it how it's going to grow? Because if no one does that, someone else is going to do it. And you had the opportunity to do it. And I think it's going, there is no shortcut. The biggest thing is there is no shortcut to whatever you consider success is. And I think that we have to realize that you have to put in the work consistently or it's not going to happen. and that I got to overcome fear. That's probably right at the top. Is I'm still fearful because we haven't done anything new, and it's like right there brewing. And today, one of our clients said it to me, and they go, "We know you're not going to be here forever because you're going to do something great, but I want to take advantage of while you're here, what you're going to do for our business." And so I know there's a lot left for Made4More. There's a lot of cool things, but I think consistency and trying to overcome fear.
I think one lesson that I have seen like over the last year is you've like whenever you have that fear, like facing it, overcoming it, and now you're being able to see like the results of that, the benefit of that, you know,
it's not easy though.
It's not, because you sat in that for a long time. Like, what am I gonna do? Like what, you know, kind of all those feelings, and then finally taking the leap and saying, okay, like I'm gonna do Made4More basically full time.
Yeah. And the fact that you, my wife, and Etiana, and the people that know me the closest were saying, "What took you so long?" But that's my challenge. It may not be y'all's challenge, but that's what I'm saying is that's my challenge, is fear. Because it's not even, I don't care what people think about me. That's not the thing. It's me going, is this going to work? But then I realize that it comes back to going, well, do you believe that you're there to motivate, inspire, and encourage? Well, heck yeah.
And do you believe in the principles that you're teaching everyone? And you do. Yeah,
because it's working, but it's going, you got to go back to remember what brought you here and just trust that process. I think one of the things I was going to tell you that I have to say, so it's the fear, right? That's what I've learned, the consistency, and the biggest one above all, and you know where I'm going with this, is manipulation and influence. No more has that been evident in my life working with people that I worked for free or I just gave back to go, I'm not here to have your money. I'm here because I'm not charging you enough, but I want to see you succeed. And whether they give me more money or not, I'm underpaid, but I want to see you succeed, because in the end, God's going to take care of me. But I do know, I believe in that so much that it's like a red light that goes off in my mind when I go, oh, that's manipulation. And then you follow that trail to that leader and go, there is no consistency there. There's nobody following, where you can, again, go follow someone who influences instead of manipulates, and you go, they have a community around them. If you can impact that leader, that whole community is going to be impacted because they influence people. And so
it's that positional leadership.
There you go.
You know, versus
That's a long answer for that.
Yes, that was a great answer. Okay, last question that I have for you is what do you want to do in the next 6 months? What are we going to hold
There's
you
a lot.
not accountable for? But
what am I going to take ownership of?
for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I think the biggest word that comes to mind is workshops. And I know I've said that. I mean, we prayed about that on Monday. I said, hey, how can I pray for you guys? Which you didn't respond. But
Mondays are a hard day for me.
It's a hard day for all of us, a lot of us. But I think workshops, like one of the things I wrote down, like what's funny is I'm on this jog and I know that God hits me over the head with these ideas, and I'm going, this is an example right here of a workshop that there's 3 parts to a mountain. There's the beginning, there's the middle, and there's the top. The people at the top don't have the same perspective as the people at the bottom. You can do a whole workshop on that to go, if you're at the top, you don't know the person at the bottom has no idea what it's like to be at the top. The people at the bottom are always asking, why did you go up? The people at the bottom are always saying, how'd you get there? But then the people at the bottom also have fear to go, why would you even freaking do that? Well, it's evident that you've never been at the top. And the person in the middle is going, should I keep going? Should I quit? There's consistency.
But the people at the bottom see the people at the top celebrating.
Yeah.
But they didn't see what happened in the middle.
And so all that is in my head, and I'm going, why don't we do that? Why don't we help people do this? And then the iceberg analogy, and then all this stuff about leadership that
we talked the whole thing about small businesses, we have.
So I would say workshops are the biggest thing that I want to start.
So what are you going to do practically to build that, to be consistent in your daily life, to make that happen in the next 6 months?
I think it's I think it's what we did with ownership over accountability, which is, let's just build it. Like we all believe about the mountain, like the top, the middle, we all do, because we know about discipline, we know about hard work, we know about encouraging others, we know about team and not manipulation or influence. So we know all that stuff, and I'm saying I know that, and I'm saying we, because it's going to take a team to go, okay, well, let's build the content, let's
I'm gonna have Etienne go ahead and schedule a date.
Figure out the ticket price, figure out where we're gonna have it. That stuff bothers me.
Right, but that's easy. That's the how.
But that's where I'm saying the fear comes in for me.
You see her? She can do anything.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the workshop of helping small businesses and people that feel like they're in it by themselves to remember that you need a community around you. But I do want to do a workshop on personal development, and I don't know anything outside of that.
That's great.
Yeah.
All
I want the podcast to continue to grow, which is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
That this month was the biggest month we've ever had. It just continues to go up. So, and it's so cool to go back and watch, because we've said go back and listen to number 127, and it's cool to go down the list and see.
And you see where it spikes.
people listen to number one again. Number one. I'm like, man, that's the number one listened podcast because we tell them to go back and listen.
Well, I went back and listened to number 1.
And you said you're pretty good.
I was like, we're pretty good because you
I
know, everybody knows I don't listen to the podcast. I don't go back and listen.
She wasn't even subscribed. Oh my gosh, I won't even get into the text argument that we got into.
But we did a little.
Okay.
We can talk about that later. But yeah. All right. So there we go.
Yeah, that's
we
it.
did motivate, inspire, encourage. Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Yeah,
we got this.
That's excellent. I really do appreciate you doing this. It was good. Y'all have anything? Any questions or anything before? Anybody in there? No.
They're shaking their head.
I think that just remember for next week that we started a new book called Leading on Empty. We're gonna go over the first 3 chapters. Tiana had that linked in our website from last year when we first talked about it. So Leading on Empty, that is the book that Jaden Farnsworth or Bozeman took and sold or gave to someone. And she was like, hey, I had this book in the back of my car and I gave it to someone. And I've already read it this year. And what's funny is I'm reading it again. And then Alan out in Louisiana, I keep using his name because he's someone new, but he said he read it and he's been challenged tremendously about building boundaries. So if you're someone who struggles with boundaries in your life, or that you feel like you're just leading on empty, where you feel like you can't pour into other people's lives, or you're a great leader and you're just doing too much.
One, I think so many times you're empty because you're not leading out of your strengths.
Yeah.
You're not leading out of, your purpose. You're not leading out of, your own line.
That's part of it. And then